showed over and over again the toxicities in these teeth and the various organs that they would affect. He produced incredible photographs of the animals that he would inject the toxins into that he had cultured out of root canal teeth. Oftentimes, he could mimic the exact disease that the patient had by taking that root canal tooth and either taking fragments of it and embedding it into the tissue of the experimental animal, or making cultures from that tooth and then injecting them into the animal. And it was interesting, and it still is to me today, that it seems like there's no particular organ that is not affected, and that it can cause nervous disorders. It can cause issues with the heart, and certainly with the kidneys, and every other major organ system can be affected. It's determined by which bacteria are in the tooth.
Got it.
I'll have to say again, it's so interesting the way many people seem to be able to handle those toxicities. Just like, gosh, you and I both know people who have smoked all their lives and they've handled those toxicities, and yet we know others who have smoked or just been around secondhand smoke and developed carcinoma of the lung. So we all have different capacities for handling these sorts of issues.
I would imagine, though, that even if somebody doesn't experience a full-blown disease, the body will always compensate. I mean, that's the intelligence of the body. Even if you don't get a full-blown disease, there's still a compensation function happening, and you may not know what it is.
Absolutely. I think there's always that challenge to the immune system. And, you know, most people that we see who are referred to us by their physicians will report that they were doing well, and then all of a sudden there was some sort of a tipping point. Maybe they developed the flu, maybe they got a vaccine, maybe they were exposed to some environmental toxin, and then they've had this sudden demise in their health. Typically, these patients are referred by their physician for us to remove anything that might be a dental toxicity challenge to their immune system.
Do you take anything for chelation? You know, there's mercury in the air, there's mercury in a lot of different places, certainly in vaccines, but what do you do to chelate in the day-to-day?
I like to boost up my vitamin C. As I recovered from my own mercury toxicity issues, I had multiple bags of high-dose intravenous vitamin C over several years, and I think that was very helpful. The vitamin C is not a good chelator, but it helps elevate our levels of glutathione, and glutathione is the body's natural chelator, especially for heavy metals. So I've chosen to do that over time. And then the other thing that I think is most beneficial is to either get a sauna or find access to a sauna or live in a climate where you can sweat. Sweating is a fabulous way to detoxify. It's gentle. The kidneys and the liver are bypassed when we sweat, and we can really detoxify in a nice, gentle way. So that's what I did. I bought an infrared sauna, and it was a fabulous, actually, turnaround in my health when I really began to consistently sweat.
I've heard that these far infrared saunas are just doing wonders for people.
It's a very gentle way to use a sauna. The heat is less than a conventional sauna, but it's more penetrating. And there's great data on the use of infrared saunas in terms of their abilities to help us detoxify.
When did you bring conscious sedation into your practice? Explain to the audience what it is, please.
Conscious sedation can be done one of two ways. It can either be done taking tablets orally, or it can be done intravenously. I much prefer the intravenous route because it's predictable. There's no guesswork. Patients are sedated within a matter of minutes, whereas sometimes the oral route is unpredictable. Some patients respond well to it, some patients do not. But at any rate, it can be done either way. The intravenous route, in my opinion, is the best way to go because of several reasons. One is, of course, we have patients monitored on heart monitors, EKG, and so forth during the entire procedure, and so we're able to see exactly what's going on. The two drugs that we use primarily are fentanyl and Versed. Those two drugs have antidotes. In other words, if a patient were to have a bizarre reaction to them, there are antidote drugs that can be given, and within a minute to 90 seconds, the effects of the Versed or the fentanyl are gone. So that's a fabulous safety valve for us. And then finally, the reason that I love to use conscious sedation is that we can accomplish so much dentistry in one visit. And it's not uncommon at all for us to sedate someone for 6 or 8 hours and do all of their dentistry in one appointment. In fact, probably 99% of the time, we're doing all of the dentistry in one appointment. Conscious sedation allows us to do that because there's an amazing time compression factor with that. And a 6-hour procedure will seem like an hour. And all of those chemical mediators that are released when we're anxious go away. So patients, I think, heal quicker when we use conscious sedation. And certainly when patients awaken from this, they typically are able to get up and move about. And really within a few hours, feel as not much has happened. So I think it's a fabulous way to have your dentistry done.
Well, I have to tell you, having experienced it at your office, I was pretty amazed. I think I started to do a prayer, and all I know is I don't remember finishing my prayer. It was quite quick. I was out and about. When I woke up, I never felt like I was drugged. I never felt groggy. I never felt how you feel after you have an anesthetic, which was great.
Well, it really is. And the combination of the drugs that is used today is the same combination that's used typically if a patient were to go in for a day surgery procedure where maybe a colonoscopy or something of that nature. And the reason these drugs are used is because they're so safe. We're very, very thankful to have the EMS literally right next to our office, but I'll have to say in doing almost 5,000 sedations, we've never had to call them because anyone had an issue with the sedation. It's one of the safest protocols and drugs used today.
Why do they call it conscious sedation? I don't remember being conscious.
Interestingly enough, you were. Conscious sedation is called conscious sedation because you still maintain all your own protective reflexes. So you swallow on your own, you certainly breathe on your own, you're not intubated. You wouldn't remember this, but during your procedure, if I had asked you to open a little bit more or to turn one way or the other, you would have responded and done that. But one of the beautiful things about Versed is that there is an amnesic property to it, so that your very short-term memory just during the procedure is altered such that you don't recall those things. I think it's wonderful because it does eliminate anxiety.
Definitely eliminated anxiety for me. The thought of having to have my front tooth extracted and anything else put in and that whole thing, I want to tell you, I was much more anxious than I appeared.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody would be. It's a big deal. Now, let's talk a little bit about implants, can we? This is a big deal. And in my particular case, an implant could have but didn't happen. Let's explain to the audience what it is, because there's an assumption that everybody knows what it is. What is an implant? Why is it used? Is it used by you?
Currently, implants are not used by me. I see a unique group of people, most of whom are sick, and they've been referred by their physician or healthcare provider because they're trying to eliminate any challenge to their immune system. Anytime you have something embedded into your tissues that does not have your DNA inscribed into it, there will be some immune challenge. So the typical implant today is put into an area typically where we've had a tooth removed. And the most common implant is made of titanium. And most commonly, the implant has been alloyed. Most of the contents of the implant are titanium, but oftentimes it's alloyed with other metals, aluminum being a very common one. Well, I have a real aversion to putting aluminum into someone's bone. And even there's quite a bit in the literature about how some people react to titanium. So I'm trying to avoid any of those issues with my patients, and therefore I opt not to put in titanium or titanium alloy implants. The other common implant that's been FDA approved in the United States is one made of zirconium. So zirconium is, in my opinion, a more inert implant. It's been used in Europe for many, many years.